here we go. I promised I wouldn't keep you waiting, and I'm not. We're getting started. Hi, everybody. My name's Ron Ray. I am the owner and founder of Turning 65 Solutions, Tax and Insurance here in New Braunfels, and serving just the greater New Braunfels, San Antonio, Hill Country area. We are retirement planning experts in holistic retirement planning. So we handle Medicare, long-term care, life insurance, legacy planning, also retirement funds planning, income, Social Security planning, and investments through our sister company that I also own, Homestead Family Wealth. So that's what we do, and it's not just Medicare insurance, not just life insurance or anything. We're the holistic package. We like to say we're your one-stop retirement shop. And today, the topic is annuities. You know, annuities are heavily marketed to retirees, pre-retirees. If you're 50 or older, you're getting some kind of marketing about annuities. You're either getting invited to steak dinner seminars, or you're getting tons of Facebook ads, or just other types of mail and marketing about annuities. And a lot of people don't really know exactly what they are, what they can do. And so I'm going to cover just some basics in this class. I do another presentation that's a little bit more detailed than this one. And a lot of my current clients have seen that, or clients that aren't clients yet, but have been to my events have seen that presentation. This one's a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit more abbreviated, not quite as detailed on the whole Annuity 101 course, but this is like, we've got this opportunity right now that doesn't happen very often, that we're in what I'm calling a perfect storm for fixed indexed annuities. And so I want to just kind of tell you about that, tell you what the opportunity is, and why it's not going to last long, and why, if you have considered an annuity in the past, but you haven't quite, pulled the trigger, or you're kind of on the fence, maybe this will kind of push you over and show you that now's the time. And if you already own an annuity, now might be the perfect time ever in history to trade that one in for a new one. The same way you trade your car in for a newer, faster, shinier, better model. Well, you can do the same thing with some of your financial products. So we'll get into that. Now, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. One, this is not the type of webinar where I'm going to be able to unmute anybody and let you ask questions verbally. We've got too many people and just don't quite have time to do that. But what we can do is, there's a chat box. They should be on the right side of your screen. Could be somewhere else, depending if you're watching on a computer or an iPad or a phone. But there's a chat box. You can type your message, your question, into that chat box, and I'll try to answer as many of them here actually live on the presentation, so that everybody can benefit from the answer. And some of them, if it's a little bit too detailed of a question, or a little bit too personal of an answer, I'll answer it offline. I'll give you a call, or I'll email you an answer to that question. But go ahead and ask away, and I'll answer as many of them as I can. I will tell you, I do have a time limit. The software here kind of limits me to 2 hours, and so does your attention span. So I'm going to get through this as quickly as I can, get the most important information to you as quickly as I can, and then get out of here and let you go on about your day, and then we can talk about it later if you're still interested. And then the other thing that I probably should have done first is just check and make sure everybody can hear me. So as we're going now, I'm about 8 minutes into this and haven't verified that anybody can actually hear me. So if you can hear me, just type that into the chat box. That'll give you a little practice with the chat box, and also let me know that I'm not sitting here talking to myself. So if you can do that, I would appreciate it. And then the other little bit of housekeeping while I'm waiting for some confirmation that you can hear me. Don't have anyone yet. Can you hear me? Let me type that in. Okay, one person can hear me, so that means, all right, good. Yeah, everybody can hear me. Good. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I have been doing these things for, like I said, 20 minutes. And finally somebody said, is this thing going to start? I can't hear anything. And here I've been talking for 20 minutes. So thank you for that little sound check. All right. A little part I want to tell you about. Stay to the end, because at the end, I'm going to tell you how you can get me to buy you a steak dinner without you having to go and listen to me talk for an hour and wait at a restaurant. I'm just going to give you a gift card to the restaurant of your choice so that you can go get it at your convenience, and you don't have to mess with all that parking and everything that goes along with a seminar. So that's it. And then I'm going to tell you about one of the highest short-term safe interest rates that you can get anywhere. And your current advisor, I promise you, is not telling you about it. And that will be at the end too. So those are my bonuses, but you got to stay to the end to figure out how to get those. Okay, here we go. A little bit about me. If you don't know me, my name's Ron Ray. As I said before, I'm a financial advisor here in New Braunfels, San Antonio, up to Austin area. And this is my second career. Before that, I was a police officer for 23 years. But a few years ago, I decided I wanted to get out of that. I wanted to, get married and start a family and not have to wear a bulletproof vest to work every day. So got out of that. And this is what I do now. And since I've been working in the financial services business, pretty much only work with people like you who are turning 65, getting ready to retire, maybe recently retired. And so I don't work with people in their 20s and 30s and 40s. I just work with people like you. And I'm in my 16th year as a retirement planner. I do have a health and life insurance license from the state of Texas. I'm also registered with the SEC and the Texas Securities Commission as a registered investment advisor. And so I'm a fee-based fiduciary investment advisor. And as I mentioned before, Turning 65 Solutions and Homestead Family Wealth, or your one-stop retirement shop. A friend of mine, I steal this from him, but I want to give him credit. A friend of mine uses the term, I'm your HR rep for the rest of your life. So when you're working all those years at your job, you had this HR person who just kind of took care of all your insurance and your health insurance, your life insurance, your disability, your 401k, your 403b, your pension, whatever. You had an office you could go to, and that person sitting at that desk. Sometimes they're friendly, sometimes they're not, but they're the ones with all the knowledge. And once you retire, we kind of don't have that person anymore. But that's the role that we serve, is we're your HR rep for the rest of your life. But I promise you, we're nice and we like to help, and we're here. Okay. I have been doing this a long time. I've gained a lot of knowledge. I train agents and advisors all over the country. I speak at conferences. I write articles, write books. Currently sit on the Newsweek experts forum in the area of finance and retirement. I've written articles for Forbes and Money Magazine. I'm currently I have a radio show here in New Braunfels on KGNB on Saturday mornings called To Your Health and Wealth, and where we talk about everything health and wealth related in retirement. And that's been real fun. We're going on about half a year of doing that, and really enjoy it. Really enjoy talking about retirement and helping people who are in retirement. So, but our presentation today is about annuities. And one thing I always like to do, if somebody's giving me a sales pitch, which is, let's face it, this is kind of what this is. If you're my client, I want you to be more of my client. And if you're not my client, I want you to be my client. So it's a sales pitch. I'm selling you on me and my firm and what we can do for you. And one of those tools that we use is called an annuity, a fixed index annuity or a multi-year guarantee annuity. And one question that I always ask when somebody's giving me a sales pitch is, what is it? How does it work? And why do I need it? That's all I need to know. I don't need your fancy your Jedi sales mind tricks. Just tell me what it is. How does it work? And why do I need it? What's it going to do for me? And so those are the three questions that we're going to answer today. So what is it? Well, it's an annuity. And if we just look up some definitions here, Webster's dictionary defines an annuity as a sum of money payable yearly or at other regular intervals. Okay. Investopedia, which if you're not familiar with Investopedia, it's a website. Oops, let me turn my phone down. That doesn't bother us anymore. Great website, Investopedia. It's got some good, as far as I can tell, very objective information on investing, and kind of a little dictionary or encyclopedia about investing. And Investopedia defines an annuity as a financial product that pays out a fixed stream of payments to an individual. Annuities are created and sold by financial institutions which accept and invest funds from individuals, then upon annuitization issue a stream of payments at a later point in time. Well, that's better. That's what we do right here. It's close. It's not perfect, but it's close. So what are some examples of annuities? People always say, well, I don't like annuities. Well, guess what? If you're over 65 or 66 or 66 and a half, 66 and 8 months, you probably already have one. You didn't even realize. It's called Social Security. If you turned on your Social Security payments, if you've taken that election, you're getting your Social Security payments, guess what? That's a sum of money paid out at regular intervals. That's an annuity. Okay. A pension. If you're lucky enough to work for a company, have worked for a company that had a pension, and you're now collecting payments on that pension, guess what? A sum of money paid out at regular intervals. That's an annuity. So teacher's retirement, an annuity. Civil service retirement, it's an annuity. In fact, they call it an annuity. You're going to get your annuity payment. Military retirement, that's an annuity. Right? Pensions are annuities. Life insurance proceeds. If you're the beneficiary of a life insurance policy and the insured individual dies, you're going to receive the death benefit from that life insurance policy. Now you have an option to take it as a lump sum, which is what most people do. That's not an annuity. That's just a lump sum payout. But you also have the option to take that death benefit as a stream of income. So they'll pay you a certain amount of money at certain intervals, yearly or quarterly or monthly even, for a certain period of time. That is an annuity payment. Here's one other one that a lot of people don't really even think of. If you win the lottery, you win the Texas lottery, the Mega Millions, or whatever, the Powerball, whatever that other one's called, you have two options. You can get the cash option, which I don't play the lottery, but I think they cut it in half. So if that big old number, that big 9-figure number you see on the billboards is $200 million, you win it, but you selected the cash option. Well, they're only going to give you about half of that. You're going to get $125 million, which ain't bad, by the way. That's before Uncle Sam gets his cut. But you can also take, if you want the whole jackpot, you have to take it over 20 years. So they're going to give you 20 equal payments once a year for 1/20th of $250 million. That is an annuity. Okay. So lots of people like annuities. They just don't even realize that they own them. All right. Now, what we deal with here in the financial services world, in financial advising, retirement planning, insurance industry, we're talking really about annuity contracts that are issued by insurance companies. And there's 4 types that we generally deal with in 2024, in this modern age. The first one is called a single premium immediate annuity. These are seldomly used. What that means, it's immediate. So you put your money in, or you hand your money in over to the insurance company, and they immediately, within 30 days, start that stream of income. Okay, so you immediately, the next month, you're going to start getting a check. And that check will last for the rest of your life. You have different options. Just like when you took your pension, you had different options. You can pick your life only. So it'll last the rest of your life. That's the one that gives you the highest payment. But what happens if you die? The payments stop and the insurance company keeps whatever's left. So if you took the lifetime option and you got payments for 5 years and you died, well, nobody's getting the rest of that money. It's immediate. It's irreversible. We really don't use SPIAs anymore, at least not in my business. There is an application for them, for Medicaid planning and certain other things, but we don't really use those. The next one we talk about is a fixed annuity or a multi-year guarantee annuity. They pay a fixed rate of interest only for a certain number of years. In the case of the MIGA, that's the one that we use, a multi-year guarantee annuity. They're 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. They'll pay that fixed rate. You know it ahead of time when you sign the contract. Say it's 3% for 5 years. Well, just like if you bought a 5-year CD at your bank for 5 years, you're going to get 3% a year for 5 years. And then at the end of the 5 years, it's over. You walk away from it. That's called a multi-year guarantee annuity. We like the short-term ones. We don't like to go more than 5 years, but we do use those quite often. The next one, and that's the one we're going to really detail today, is called a fixed indexed annuity, the FIA. I want to talk about that in great detail here in a moment. So now I'm going to skip down to the variable annuity. This is one that we really do not like. Variable annuity, what's variable about it? Your balance. So in this one, you put your money on deposit with the insurance company. They provide some guarantees. If you die during the term of the annuity before you start taking the payments, they'll pay you back at least what you put into it. So you can't lose money that way. However, your money is not safe. It's invested in what they call, I'm sorry, just lost my words there. Variable sub-accounts, which is insurance language for mutual funds, and they go up and down with the stock market. And you can lose money, you can gain money, but you can also lose money. So they do have some guarantees built into them. They might have some income riders that promise that you'll get a certain amount of income at some point in the future with guaranteed interest payments to that. But it all comes with fees. So fees and risk and high surrender charges and lots of complications. We don't like variable annuities. We feel like we can do the same thing with fixed index annuities without the risk, without the fees. So that brings us back to fixed indexed annuities. And here we go. Now, this is a chart. I'm not going to go across the whole chart. I just want you to look at the green lines. And sometimes I forget that you cannot see my cursor on this screen. So if I start talking like I'm pointing to something and you can't see what I'm pointing at, please let me know. And I'll turn this John Madden box on so I can show you. We're going to look at the green box first, because everything under the green box, your principal is protected from market risk. You're not going to lose any money to the market. And start over here with cash, right? You got cash in a checking account, cash in a savings account, cash under your mattress. It's protected. You're not going to lose the principal. You could lose it if it's under your mattress. I don't recommend that. It's not insured under your homeowner's policy. There could be some problems with that. Money market accounts, very much like a savings account that's got some extra features on it at your bank. Principal protected. Your money's not invested in the market. It's safe. CDs, same thing. It's safe. Immediate annuities, the principal is protected. However, you no longer have access to it, because once you start an immediate annuity, your access to that lump sum of money is gone. You can't access the lump sum. You're just going to start getting the payments. But technically, the principal is protected. Fixed interest annuities, the principal is protected. Fixed indexed annuities is the one we're going to focus on right here in this box. Principal protected. Very common investment instruments that are not principal protected. Look at the first one on the list, variable annuities. We don't like those. Mutual funds, we do use those in our investment business. Stocks and bonds, I'm not a stock picker, and I don't like bonds, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But we can get both of those through certain mutual funds. Commodities, don't like those for retirees. Alternative investments, really don't like those for retirees. They're complicated. They're typically very risky, and a lot of times they're very illiquid. Real estate investment trusts, limited partnerships, business development corporations, don't like those. So out of these, we don't use variable annuities. We don't use individual stocks and bonds. Definitely don't use commodities. Definitely don't use alternative investments. I have clients that came to me with certain alternative investments, and those in more than one case. Like I can fill a whole hand of fingers telling you how many clients I have that have alternative investments, limited partnerships, business development corporations, and real estate investment trusts that have gone to zero and been raided by the FBI, and in a couple of cases been deemed a bona fide, legit Ponzi scheme. We stay away from those for sure. But mutual funds, exchange traded funds, we do handle those as well on the managed money side. So that's part of our balanced approach. But what we're talking about today, again, indexed annuities. All right. So how do they work? That's what it is. That's what we're talking about. Fixed indexed annuity. How does it work? Why is it called a fixed indexed annuity? Well, here it is. Fixed / indexed. Fixed meaning you have the option of getting a fixed rate of interest every year. You know at the beginning of your policy year what that rate of interest is going to be, and you can choose to get to just collect it as a fixed rate of interest. Or indexed, you have the option to select one of usually several. I've got annuities that may have 12 or 15 different index options, where what you're doing essentially is placing a bet on a stock market index, like the S&P 500. And that bet says that if the market goes up, you're going to make money. They pay you. But if the market goes down, you don't lose anything. You don't make anything either. You get a big fat zero, but you don't lose anything. Okay, so it's really like playing a game of let's make a deal. And bonus points to anybody that can remember the name of that guy right there. I knew it when I grabbed that picture off the web, but now I can't remember it. It's not Wayne Brady, I can tell you that. But let's make a deal. What did he say? He said, I've got this money in my hand. You can take that. You can walk away, and it's yours, and game over. You got it. Or you can pick what's behind door number one, and I don't know what's behind it. You don't get this money. You get what's behind door number one. It might be a brand new car, or it might be what do they have? A donkey or some weird thing that was no good. Monty Hall. Yes, thank you. I kept wanting to say Wink Martindale, but I knew that wasn't right. All right, so here's what it looks like. Let's make a deal. And we're going to use an example of a fixed index annuity that started with $100,000. You put $100,000 in, and I say, okay, here we go. We're going to play let's make a deal. The fixed rate for this year on this annuity is 3.5%. So at the end of 12 months, you're going to get 3.5%. I've got $3,500 cash in my hand. You can take that. It's yours. You can't ever lose it. And you got it. It's guaranteed. Or you can take what's behind door number one. And what that is, we open the door. It's the S&P 500 stock market index. Index 500 largest companies in the U.S. stock market. It's the one you see on the news every day. It's the one you hear about. It's the one they gauge everything by. And on an annual point-to-point basis, so from this day, today, July 11th, 2024, 1 year later, July 11th, 2025, if the S&P 500 is up, you make money, you win. But if the S&P 500 is down, it's negative, you don't lose any money, but what happens? You get zero, okay? And that, we'll talk about how this works in a minute, but the cap on that S&P 500 strategy is a 7% cap and a 0% floor. So you can make up to 7% or as low as 0. So what's behind door number one is a bet. You're betting that the stock market's going to go up, and you're going to get anywhere from $0 to $7,000. So if it goes up 22%, it's got a 7% cap on it. Well, you're going to get $7,000. But if it goes down 10%, what do you get? You don't lose anything. You get a 0. What if the S&P 500 goes up 2%? You're going to get $2,000, which was what? It's less than $3,500 that you could have got on the fixed rate. So it's a bet. We're placing a bet. every year we get to play this game again. And that's my job, is to advise you. I'm not quite as invested in the game show making money as Monty Hall is. I want you to make money. That's my job as your advisor. I don't owe these insurance companies anything. My job is to make you money. So I'm going to tell you what I think is the best way to go. Like right now, we're in a pretty high interest rate environment, higher than we've been in the last 20 years, at least since I've been in this business. So I'm going to tell you, take the cash, because I don't know what's going to happen to the market. The market's kind of fooled me for the last 18 months. It's been soaring. The S&P is up. I forgot to run the numbers in the last, I'll tell you in a minute. I'm going to do a case study from last March to now, from March 2023 to now. The S&P 500 is up 44%. But what do we have coming up? What do we have coming up that could mess all that up? Well, we have a presidential election, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't think anybody does. I think what everybody can agree on is that it's been pretty crazy so far, and it's not going to get any better. Like, this is not going to be a smooth election season, right? We haven't recovered from the 2016 election. I've still got lawsuits and controversies going on from that. And then the 2020 election still got lawsuits and controversies going on from that, and criminal prosecutions. And now here we are in 2024. We're in the same thing, only it feels worse. So I don't know what's going to happen. What I do know is going to happen is the stock market's going to get rocky, just like what happened in 2016 election, and to a lesser extent 2020. But 2016, when it was Trump versus Hillary, the stock market leading up to the election was rocky. It was up, it was down, it was up, it was down. There should be big swings, and it was all driven by the news. And say, okay, Trump did this, and we're gonna kick him out, and we're gonna prosecute him, and we're gonna do this. And Hillary did this, and she emails and servers and oh well, the FBI guy came on and said, yeah, she did it, but we're not going to prosecute. All of that news moved the market. And then what happened on election day? Somebody won. And that's what's going to happen with this election. It's going to get rocky, and it's going to be very uncertain. The market doesn't like uncertainty. And so it's going to go up. It's going to go down with the news. One poll is going to come out, and it's going to say one person's winning. Another poll is going to come out the next day, says the other person winning, and the market's going to react to that a little bit. And then on election day, somebody's going to win. And depending on who wins, the market's either going to go way up or it's going to go way down. And then over the course of the next few weeks, it's going to kind of come back to normal. It's going to kind of work itself out, because the bottom line is the market doesn't care who is in the White House. The market just wants to know. It doesn't. If we look back, I'm building a new presentation on this called "How Does the 2024 Election Affect Your Retirement?" where we're going to talk about some statistics. How do political parties affect the market, and what does that mean for your retirement? But I can tell you, one of the statistics we look at is how do the market perform when a Republican's in the White House? How does the market perform when a Democrat's in the White House? I tell you, it's very close. And the market, for the most part, really doesn't care, because the stock market, at least the S&P 500, is driven mainly by macroeconomics, which is mostly unaffected by White House policy. There's some things that can affect it, but for the most part, it's not. So the market doesn't care. It just wants to know on election day, it's going to go one direction or the other drastically on the next day. And then, it's going to normalize. It's going to get back to going. And then it'll be, the talk will be the economy and the debt and all that. And, then we have to go. But up until that point, we don't know what's going to happen. And for the next 12 months, it's July. So we've got an election in 5 months roughly. And then the next few months to kind of normalize. So I'd say for about the next year, I'm not making any predictions on the stock market. I'm going to say, take that cash and go, because that's not bad cash. Okay. Now, This is what it looks like on a chart. If we look at, if we had bought a fixed index annuity in the year 2000, turn my pointer on. Any questions so far? Kind of quiet in the chat. Okay, I'll just check to make sure we don't have any questions to answer. If you do, just pop one in there and I'll try to answer. If we bought an indexed annuity with $100,000 in the year 2000 versus putting $100,000 in the stock in the S&P 500 in the year 2000, at the same time, same day, same timing, and the indexed annuity was allocated to an S&P 500 strategy with a 50% par rate. I'll tell you what that means in a minute, but just for this purpose, it means half of your money participates in the index. So stated another way, whatever the index does, you get half. Except if it goes down, you get 0. So if the stock market goes up 10%, you get 5. If it goes up 20%, you get 10. Okay, so it's very simple. You get half. Whatever the stock market does on the upside, you get none of what it does on the downside. So what happened in 2000? 99 going into 2000, leading up to 2001, we had the dot-com bubble. Okay, dot-com bubble. Then 2001, what did we have? 9/11. That wasn't good for the stock market. All right, and just recovering from the dot-com bubble and 9/11, it was 2003 before we bottomed out. So 3 consecutive down years in the S&P 500. If you put money in the S&P 500, you would have lost $40,000 in the first 3 years. But in your fixed indexed annuity, remember, you didn't make anything, but you didn't lose anything either. So you still have your 100,000. Okay. Then we start getting a little bit of a recovery. So when the stock market goes up, you make money. So your first year of recovery, now you go from 59,000 to 75,000 in the S&P, but you're also now in your indexed annuity, you're up to 113,000. And then a couple of recovery years. And then what happened in 2008? I know people in this room remember that. We had the financial crisis. Started in the fall of 2007 to the spring of 2009 was the bottom. Okay. So in that period, by that time, let's just say, let me just back that up. By that time, you had just now gotten back to where you started in the S&P 500. Okay. You started 8 years earlier with $100,000. 8 years later, you've got exactly what you started with. Okay. In your index annuity, guess what? You're up to $130,000 because we take out the negative years. Okay. If you can take out the negatives and just add a 0 in there, look at the difference that it makes. So from 2008 to 2009, you're going back down to 61,000. But guess what happens here? You don't lose a penny. You're still at 130. And then we start to recover. Finally start to recover. Okay. Where do you get back to level? Somewhere between 13 and 14. Now you're back to where you started. But where are you at in your indexed annuity? Where you're somewhere between 165 and 190. Right. So you almost doubled what you have in the more than double. You got $100,000 more than what you put in the stock market 13 years ago. Okay, what happened 2018 was pretty bad. It was a good year right up until the end. We had the worst Christmas Eve trading day in a decade and kind of wiped out all of our gains in a couple of days at the end of 2018. So had a good time there, but we're up to 230,000. Your stock market accounts, it's bouncing back. We had a good run there for a few years, but we still haven't caught up with that green line. 2018 and 19 was a down year. 2021 was a good year. 2020 was weird. What happened in 2020? We had this, what they call a dead cat bounce or V-shaped recovery. That's the COVID recovery. So right at the beginning of the year, say February, March, April, we had this really sharp drop in the market because of COVID. Everything was shutting down. Nobody knew what the heck was going to go on. Remember, the market doesn't like uncertainty. But once we kind of figured out, hey, the world's not coming to an end, and this is going to be rough, but we're going to be okay. Well, the market bounced right back up. And so the ones that got hurt in that, or the ones that got out of the market right here and didn't just wait, it really came back really quickly, and we're okay. But in your index annuities, you're doing good. 2021 was really good. And now you've caught up. Remember, the red line can, in certain years, if you're really good, have a good run of years, can catch up. Okay. And so by the end of 2021, it had caught up. So your red line is actually a little bit above the green line. But then what happened 2023? Stock market was down 16%. But where was the green line? Right there. I'm sorry, 2022. 2023, the stock market was back up right here. And I don't know the level here. I'm drawing these lines wrong, and then the stock market's up again this year. But the fact is, the index annuities come right back up. I do it like this. When the stock market goes up, your account goes up. And when the stock market goes down, you don't lose any money. And then when the stock market comes up, your account goes up. And when the stock market goes down, you don't lose any money. When the stock market goes up, your account goes up. And when the stock market goes down, you don't lose any money. Now, this chart, to be fair, does not account for withdrawals. So if you're withdrawing money due to required minimum distributions or just needs, just income needs, it doesn't account for that. It also doesn't account for fees. Most index annuities, especially the ones that I work with, do not have fees. I don't like to pay fees in index annuities unless they buy a certain thing that you need, like a long-term care rider or an enhanced death benefit, something that's a value that's going to exceed the cost of that fee, because otherwise we can do the same thing usually for no fee. All right, everybody clear on that? All right. So we talked about that part, those caps and participation rates. Basically, what these are, I'm not going to take too much time explaining each one of these individually, but I'm just going to describe it this way. In order to give you, when the stock market goes up, your account goes up, but when the stock market goes down, you don't lose anything. In order to give you the protection from the downside here, they can only afford to pay you so much on the upside. Okay, they're insurance companies. They're for-profit businesses. They're in business to make a profit. And so if the S&P 500 goes up 20%, they might only pay you 7%. Okay, that's where their profit margin comes in. Mechanically, how it works is a little bit more complicated than that, but essentially that's what it works. So that would be called a cap, where they just cap your interest. Another one would be called a spread. That's on the bottom end. So the market would have to overcome a certain amount, usually like 2 or 3%, and then you get everything above that, but you don't get the first 2% or you don't get the first 3%, whatever the spread is. And then a participation rate is, like I explained earlier, whatever that participation rate is, that's what you get as a percentage. So if it's a 50% participation rate in the S&P 500, whatever the S&P 500 does, you get half. You get 50%. If it's a 30% participation rate, you get 30%. Okay, so if it goes up 10%, you get 3. If it goes up 20%, you get 6. If it goes down 25%, what do you get? 0. You don't lose anything. But that year, you get a 0. Okay. Now, there's something else you need to know about annuities. They have something called a surrender charge. Now, what a surrender charge is this is like an early withdrawal penalty. Like a CD has an early withdrawal penalty. If you buy a 2-year CD and you take it out in 12 months, well, they're going to penalize you. They're going to take back some of your interest, and depending on how high the interest is and or how low the interest is and how quick you broke that certificate, you might get into your principal. Well, the same thing applies to an annuity. It's an early withdrawal penalty. The surrender charge schedule for everything that I work with are 5 or 10 years, usually 10 years. Most of them are 10 because that's where you get your best rates. I don't do anything that's longer than 10 years. I do have 15 and 14-year annuities. I don't ever do one of those. It just doesn't make sense. The rates aren't much better, if at all, and it just doesn't make sense. But for that first 10 years, if you take out more than the annual free withdrawal amount, you get a certain amount every year, penalty free. That's called the penalty free amount, usually around 10%. So you can have about 10% every year for free, no penalty. But if you take out more than the penalty-free amount, everything that you take out above the penalty-free amount, you're going to pay the surrender charge. The first year, those surrender charges start out pretty high. They're usually around 9 or 10% the first year. But then every year it ticks down just a little bit so that at the end of the 10th year, it's zero. And your money is 100% penalty-free, 100% liquid. There's no more penalties involved. Okay? That's for the first 10 years. So if you got to year 8 of a 10-year annuity and you decided you wanted to cash it out and walk away from it, well, you get the first 10% would be free, but everything above that, you would pay a 2% surrender charge. If you did in year 5, it would be 5 or 6, whatever that worked out to. And if it starts out at 9, there might be some fractions for the years, but usually don't do anything that's got higher than a 10% first year surrender charge. Most of them, in fact, start out at 9. And by the end of the 10th year, it's 0. Same thing for a 5-year annuity, but don't do a whole lot of 5-year annuities because the rates are just so much better on 10-year. Now, the penalties, the surrender charges are fully waived at any time during the surrender charge period for death, terminal illness, or nursing home confinement. Those are the 3 that are a must for me to work with a certain annuity. Others often have other waivers, such as maybe not nursing home confinement, but you just meet the qualifications for home care based on you need help with 2 of the 6 activities of daily living. There's several others, but these are the 3 must-haves for me and my clients. If you died during the first 10 years, or if you're diagnosed with terminal illness, or if you need to be confined to a nursing home, those penalties are going to be completely waived, and you can have your money free and clear to go do whatever you need to do with it. Okay. Now, there's another thing built into almost all annuities, fixed index annuities anyway, called a market value adjustment. A lot of agents don't talk about this until they have to, because they're required to tell you about it, required to disclose it. I tell you about it because I think it's a valuable tool in a lot of cases. And what this is it's a second layer of potential surrender charges. So you've got the surrender charges. That's just a contractual calculation that's built into it. It's just the company says it's in the contract. If you cash it out in year 8, you're going to pay 2% surrender charge. Okay, it's just a calculation. It's just do the math and figure it out. They've got another layer built into them called a market value adjustment. Now, a market value adjustment can be a second layer of surrender charges, but can also be positive. It can be in your favor. You can make money on a market value adjustment, and they're priced like a bond. So because they're based on some bond or bond index at the time that you purchase the annuity. So if you purchase an annuity when rates are high, like they are now, and then later rates go down, the pricing of a market value adjustment works just like bond prices. It's it's like a seesaw. So this is the example we always use when we talk about bond prices. As if you say this is your market value adjustment, and the rate was 5% on this bond or this bond index that they base the MVA upon. It's 5%. Well, if interest rates go up on that bond or that market value adjustment, the price of the bond or the value of the market value adjustment goes down, which in this example would be a negative. So that would cost you money. Okay? Because it's just like the reason this works with a bond. If you own a bond that's paying a coupon rate of 5% and rates go up to 8%, nobody wants to buy your bond that's paying 5%. They're going to go over here and for the same amount of money buy a bond that's paying 8%, right? So the value, the selling value, the price of your bond is lower. Okay? Conversely, if you own a bond that's paying 5% and interest rates drop to 3%, well, now everybody wants to buy your 5% bond and they'll pay you a premium for it. So if you paid $1,000 for that bond, they might be willing to pay you, $1,200 for it. I'm just making those numbers up, but just to give you an example that those bond prices go on a seesaw and they're based upon the current interest rates and the rates you bought your bond at. So market value adjustments work the same way. Annuities that were bought when interest rates were low, which is a whole lot of them because these interest rates haven't been that high for very long. Now that interest rates are higher, well, guess what happens to the MVAs in those older annuities? They're positive. Okay, so, and they can be so positive that they overcome or even exceed the surrender charges. So we've been seeing a lot of annuities that are 5-6 years old that still have significant surrender charges, but the market value adjustments are positive so that they overcome and even exceed the surrender charges. So what do you want to do? If you can get out of an annuity early and make money doing it, well, you probably want to do that. Now, it's not a 100% statement. Okay, that's not perfect for everybody because you might have had that annuity for a very specific purpose, like some sort of specific estate asset transfer purpose, or maybe it does have an income rider or some kind of long-term care rider that you don't want to give up for a gain, just to trade it in. So this is an individualized decision. We've got to look at it and do the math and see if it works. Okay, so where are we at now? We're in an environment where we're buying market value adjustments at a high interest rate. And what's going to happen to the current interest rate environment? Eventually, I think sooner than later, it's going to start to go down. So when interest rates go down, you now own this MVA, this market value adjustment inside this annuity. It's a feature. It's not an item. It's not tangible. It's just a clause in the contract. And so when these interest rates start going down, you still own that high interest rate annuity becomes even more valuable. So let's say, this is an example. I'm just throwing an example out there. Please don't hold me to this. You bought an annuity today at these high interest rates, and a year from now, you've still got 8 or 9% surrender charge, but interest rates have gone down to a point where the value of your market value adjustment has gone up positive to 10 or 12%. So that's 2 or 3% above the surrender charge. So you can trade that annuity in. You can surrender it, go buy a new one, or surrender it and do something else with that money. Whatever you want to do, but get out of that contract early and make 2 or 3 or 4% doing it after you pay the surrender charges. So that's something that most people don't even know is a part of their annuity. And most agents don't talk about them too much because they are a little bit complicated to talk about. Most agents don't understand how they work. But they're in a position right now for new annuities bought now to put you in a very good position later. Okay. They have no bearing on how your annuity performs while you own it. They only affect money taken out of the annuity above the annual penalty-free amount. So if you never take money out of your annuity that's more than the annual penalty-free amount, you're never affected by the market value adjustment. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that. It's like a just in case for the insurance company, but it can work in your favor. All right. Moving on. Okay, so that's how it works. In a nutshell, that's my abbreviated version of how fixed index annuities work. Why you might need one? Well, it's really because here at Turning 65 Solutions and Homestead Family Wealth, I have taken a very balanced approach to retirement investing, meaning I don't put all my eggs in one basket. I'm not only doing stock market. I'm not only doing stocks and bonds. I'm not only doing ETF strategies. I'm not only doing annuities like a lot of insurance agents do. A lot of insurance agents that sell annuities do not have a securities registration, not taken those tests, not gotten that education, are not allowed to talk about securities. By securities, I mean stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange traded funds. They're not even allowed to really talk about them because it's in violation of their license. They can only talk about insurance. Well, I got that license because I found that I was only telling one side of the story. And so now I get to tell both sides of the story. I get to take a balanced approach instead of just doing one thing. I do the whole package for you. And what I've been using fixed index annuities for about the last 10 years is as an alternative to the bond portion of your portfolio. So if you've got a 60-40 portfolio, which is very common, most retirees come to me at the point of retirement at 55, 60, 65 years old, and they've got a nice balanced 60-40 portfolio. 60-40 means you've got 60% equities or stocks or stock mutual funds and 40% income, which usually means bonds or bond mutual funds. Well, bonds have stunk it up for about the last decade, maybe like 12 years now. Interest rates have been so low until recently that you just can't make enough money in your bond portfolios to balance it out. So and most people don't have an old-fashioned broker who's actually buying them the bonds. They're buying bond mutual funds or bond ETFs, which means you don't actually own the bond. You own a share of a mutual fund that owns the bonds. And the price of your fund, your share price, is not based nearly as much on the coupon rate, the interest that those bonds are paying, but on the price of the bonds. So they're very volatile. Like I said, that seesaw moves. The price, the selling price, the buying and selling price of that bond, not the interest that it pays, but the buying and selling price of it is volatile. It goes up and down every day with the interest rate markets. And that affects your portfolio. That affects the bond portion, your income portion of your portfolio. And they've underperformed by a great deal for about the last 10 or 12 years. But the idea is, and the whole rationale behind that 60-40 or 50-50 portfolio or 40-60 portfolio as you get later into the retirement years, closer to retirement, pulling that risk down, is that that's your income. That's where you get that fixed income. But the problem is you're not buying bonds anymore. You're buying bond funds, and they're volatile. The price is volatile. So when you need money out of that account, what do? You don't get cash from the dividends from the bonds. You sell shares of the funds that own the bonds, and you sell them at the price, the selling price, which can fluctuate from day to day. So they don't provide that nice, safe, reliable income the way they used to 20, 30, 40 years ago. But fixed indexed annuities are a very, very good alternative to the bond portion of your portfolio, because they do provide safe returns that are bond-like returns, and they can provide that steady stream of income in the form of an income rider or even an annuitization, though we don't recommend that. And I've been doing it for a long time now, but now other people way smarter than me, are kind of catching on to the idea. So I found this article. I don't have the whole article here, but just a summary of this article from BlackRock. And what it says here, these are. I mean, look at these guys' names. They've got to be smarter than me. A fixed index annuity allocation allows greater upside in the median scenario when suitably funded. So if we're not overperforming or underperforming, we're just performing right in the middle, they provide a greater upside than bonds. An FIA allocation reduces extreme bad outcomes in balanced portfolios. So if we've got a balanced portfolio, which a 60-40 would be considered balanced, 50-50, even 40-60 would be considered a balanced portfolio, because they provide that safety, that floor of 0 every year, and that lock-in on the next year, that annual lock-in. They're reducing, not eliminating, because we are still staying in the market for some of your money. They're reducing the extreme bad outcomes. So the 2008s, the 2020s, the 22s, those extreme bad outcomes are being reduced. FIAs improve medium and worst outcomes for conservative and cash-heavy portfolios. Okay, so good alternative to cash too, assuming you have enough cash on hand to be liquid enough for emergencies and anything else. If you got extra cash, above your actual emergency living liquidity requirements, FIAs are a good choice for that money. And then lastly, here in the summary, incorporated FIA with an underlying volatility controlled index can help provide more. My face is in the way. I can't actually read that. Future portfolio values. Yep. So you get a little bit more upside and a little less downside is kind of what that's saying there. Okay. So don't take it from me, take it from the experts. As part of a balanced approach to retirement planning, they offer safety from market losses. They allow for just kind of a recap, participation in the upside of the market, but without the downside risk. They can provide a guaranteed income in retirement. They have an income rider, if that's what our goal is at some point in the future, to turn on a steady, guaranteed stream of income that you can't outlive. They can do that. If for non-qualified accounts, that means non-IRA accounts, they are tax deferred. So you're not, unlike in your non-qualified brokerage accounts or CD accounts, you're paying taxes on a portion of that money every year, the gains, capital gains, or even ordinary income, depending on what it is. These are tax deferred, just like your IRA. So you don't pay taxes on those gains until you take it out, of the account. So for non-qualified accounts, really provides some more tax efficiency. They bypass probate. So we don't need to go and buy an expensive trust from a lawyer. If that's all you're worried about is bypassing the probate process, annuities, you assign a beneficiary when you do the application, and we can change that anytime you want to. And then upon your death, the proceeds, the death benefit of the annuity, which usually equal to the cash value, is going directly to your beneficiaries, your named beneficiaries, bypassing the probate process. And they're protected because it's an insurance policy. It's not a cash account, a bank, or brokerage account at a brokerage house. It's protected in most cases. I'm not a lawyer, so do your own research on this, but it's protected from creditors and lawsuit judgments. All right, let's talk about fees for just a second. I'm not going to go into this too much. I'm going to run out of time, and I think you're all still here, so I want to thank you for that, and take just a quick pause, see if we've got any questions. Everybody still good? All right. Boy, y'all are hanging in there great. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's talk about fees real quick. I said I don't like to pay fees in annuities unless they pay for a very specific purpose, like long-term care or an enhanced death benefit or enhanced access, something specific that is of value to you that you're going to use. Like we feel pretty confident you're going to use it. A lot of fees inside fixed annuities have to do with income riders that most people probably aren't going to use. And if they are, we can probably do the same thing with generating income without having to pay that fee. The fees are usually a little bit less than 1%, up to maybe 1.4% annually, depending on what it is. I don't like to pay them. So most cases, an annuity that I'm going to offer you, or I'm going to recommend to you, is going to have no fees. But let's talk about fees. The fees that you're paying in your current managed brokerage accounts right here are going to be, on average, I use Forbes magazine did this study a couple of years ago, and it said on average, most people in managed accounts, that means fee-based accounts where you're paying an advisor a management fee, those fees, when you look at all of the fees, what you pay the advisor, what you pay any third-party money managers, plus the fund expense ratios, that, you know, those are the kind of underlying fees you don't even see unless you read the prospectus. About 2% on average. Okay, so your all-in fees about 2%. Okay, a lot of people say, "Well, my advisor, I just pay him 1%. He just gets paid 1%." Yeah, but there's other people in the chain that get paid. Some of those fees, they're all disclosed somewhere. Some of them are harder to find. They're not on your statement. The management fee that goes to your advisor, that's on the statement. These other fees, they're not. You have to dig to find those. All right. So if you had, this is a slide from another case study that did $1.18 million, and you're paying all-in fees of 2%, that's $23,600 a year in fees. Okay, that didn't buy you anything except for that advisor to call you once a year and said, everything's good, we don't need to make any changes. $23,600. Now, with a more balanced approach, kind of like I do it, we're going to take the income portion, so 60-40, we're going to take that 40% of your portfolio, and we're going to put that into a fixed index annuity, and we're going to leave the 60% in a fee-based managed account. Now, you can leave that with your current advisor at roughly 2%, or you can bring it to me. I'd love to manage it for you. And my all-in fees, because I've cut out a lot of the middlemen, is about, depending on what we're doing, it's not perfect for everybody, about 1.5%. Again, I get 1%. That's my fee. I feel very strongly about getting paid for what I do, and I get about 1%. The other 0.5 goes to Charles Schwab, and some of the funds do have expenses, but they're very low. I use very inexpensive exchange traded funds from BlackRock and Vanguard. But anyway, you add it all up, usually right around 1.4 to 1.5%. So if we've taken out all the fees on 40% of the portfolio and reduced by 25% the fees on the rest of the portfolio, we've now brought your fees on your total portfolio from 2% down to 0.9%. And 0.9% on $1.18 million is $10,620. So to do basically the same job, you're spending $13,000 a year less just going out the door in fees. There's a few things that we can control that affect your retirement. There's some things we can't control. We can't control what happens in Washington. We can't control, hurricanes in the Gulf that affect the markets. We can't control, maniacs, firing missiles, in other countries. We can't control that stuff. There are a few things we can control. We can control taxes. We can make sure you're in a tax efficient strategy, and we can control, for the most part, we can control fees. So those are two of the major headwinds that we can control, and that's 2 out of 4 of the major headwinds to retirement. We can control that, and that's very easy. All we have to do is take a look at it and see where can we make changes and gain efficiency. Okay? And risk, I talk about we can't control Washington and weather and maniacs, but we can control how we're exposed to those different kinds of risks. It's not perfect. It's always going to be a little bit of risk. There's nothing that has no risk, including annuities. Annuities have certain types of risk, just not market risk. Okay, so here's a case study. Let's do this one. This is a case study. I told you the 3 things you need to know. What is it? How does it work? Why do I need it? Okay. So now let's look at another question. What if you already own one? Okay. Up till now, I've been talking about if you don't have one, this is why you should consider it. Here's another question. What if you already own one that you bought 2+ years ago? If you've had it for at least 2 years, I would say it's time to look and see if you can't trade it in for a newer model. Okay. And here's how this works. This is an actual statement. I've blocked out the personal information for this client. This annuity was purchased in March of 2022. So this annuity is just 2 years old. Okay, it's basically brand new. It's a 10-year fixed indexed annuity. This client started out, she put $100,000 in. Okay, there was no bonus. Okay, this is not a bonus annuity. It was just $100,000. She put it in. 1 year later, from March 14th, 22 to March 14th, 23, the market was down. She didn't make anything. She still, on that anniversary date, that statement read $100,000. Okay. From March 14th, 2023 to the date of this statement, March 14th, 2022, we're allocated to the S&P 500 1 year point to point with a 50% participation rate. That means for that period of time, whatever the S&P 500 made, she got half of. She got 50%. Well, that period of time, the S&P 500 happened to have been up about 30%. She got half of that. She made $15,000. 15%. She made $15,000. Now, you average that out over 2 years. Well, it's not 15%. What is it? It's 7.5. Okay, still pretty good. Average over 2 years. Okay, but look here. What this is the surrender value. We've got several values here. We've got cash value. This is the cash value. Sometimes it's called accumulation value. Oops. Whoa. Sometimes it's called accumulation value. And then we've got the surrender value. This is what you would get if you cashed it out today. If you just called the company and said, or you called me and said, Ron, I changed my mind, I want out, or I need all that money, I need to cash it in, I need to surrender it. You would get $107,337.49 back. Okay? This is a real statement from a real client. Now, I had to put this little disclaimer down here because in 15, almost 16 years of doing this, I've seen quite a few 15%, double-digit years in index credits, index interest. It's not typical. What we're looking for, what I'm happy with, is somewhere between 4 and 7 on average. If we get a 15, that's great. I'm not going to sneeze at that. I'm going to be very happy, and so is my client. But next year, if it's a 0, guess what? I'm still going to be happy. Okay, I'm not expecting home runs. This is money ball. We just want to get on base. Okay. So let's look at how this works. So let's do the math. On this current annuity, the current cash value was $115,000. Remember, she put in $100,000 2 years ago. The current surrender value, if we cashed it out, we surrender it, we took the money out, and we're going to take it to a new annuity company and buy a new annuity. We're going to pay almost $8,000 to do that. We're going to pay a penalty. We're going to pay that company. We're going to pay them off. $8,000 just to get that money out. And so we're going to leave with $107,000. It's going to cost us 6.9%. That is the surrender charge plus a positive or negative MVA. But based on that statement doesn't break out the MVA, but it's in there. To find out if the MVA was positive or negative or how those two numbers broke out, we have to call the company. But bottom line is that's the total surrender. That's the total surrender value. That's the total surrender charge that includes surrender charge and MVA. So that means to the new company, we're not taking $115,000, we're taking $107,000. Now this new company, this new contract, same type of annuity, it's a fixed index annuity, same thing we've been talking about this whole time. It currently has a 13% cash bonus. It's very important that it's called a cash bonus. Okay, a lot of annuities will talk about big bonuses, like sounds too good to be true. Well, that's because it probably is. It's not a cash bonus. If you see an annuity with a 30, 35, 40% bonus, it's probably not a cash bonus. It's probably an income value bonus. I call that funny money. It's not money that you can have. It's money that they use to add to your income value, which is not cash money. It's an accounting figure that they use to determine your income on an income rider when you decide to turn it on. I don't want funny money. I want real money. I want cash money. This is a 13% cash bonus. Okay, so on $107,000, that's $14,000. Day one, your account is going to be now worth $121,000, $6,000 more than we started with up here. But wait, there's more. The first year fixed interest rate is 3.5%. We can take the index option. We can place a bet on the S&P 500 or 12 other index options that they have. Because of what I said about the market earlier, the election and the economy, I'm not confident enough to say, don't take 3.5%. I would much rather have $42 in my hand than maybe a 10 or 11% on the S&P cap, or maybe a 0. Now, would I be upset if we got a 0? If we placed a bet on the S&P 500, we chose that option, we got a 0, I wouldn't be upset, but I'd be kind of kicking myself like, gosh, I knew it was an election year. I knew we probably should have taken the cash. Okay, we didn't lose anything except we lose the opportunity to maybe make 3.5%. Okay, so that's my job, is to kind of point you in the right direction there. Ultimately, you're in charge. If you're more of a gambler and you're more of a let's press our luck, that's knowing the worst thing we do is not make anything. Well, maybe you want to do that. But for me, for most of my clients are very conservative, I'm recommending we get the cash. We're going to get the $4,200. So guaranteed in the first year, you have $126,000, which is 16.95% over the 107. That's 8.9% over the 115 that you started out with. Why wouldn't you do that? The only reason you wouldn't do that is if the math didn't work out in your favor. I don't ever want you to lose money. I don't want you to go negative just to trade in an annuity. That doesn't make sense. Unless there's some other reason. Maybe it's got a fee for a rider that you're not going to use, like some income rider. You're 75 and you haven't started taking your income rider yet. Well, it's probably not going to do you any good. Let's stop paying the fee. There's some other reason. And in fact, most companies won't let you trade one annuity in for a new one if you're going to go negative. So they won't let you lose money. They won't let you buy a new annuity from them if you're going to lose money. And we have to disclose all that. We can't just send them a check, right? We have to tell them, this is the annuity you currently have. We want to put it in your new annuity. These are the numbers, these are the benefits, these are the riders, these are the fees compared to the new one, riders, rates, benefits, fees. And the insurance company goes through this suitability process where you say, okay, it makes sense. It's in your best interest. or it doesn't make sense, like we think you probably are better off staying over there. They do that. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to get sued. They don't want to put you in a worse position. Okay. So does that make sense to everybody? Everybody still with me? I see the number of attendees is still the same. I don't see any questions. All right. Good. All right. So this is what we're doing. And by the way, this annuity that was bought 2 years ago when interest rates were lower has a market value adjustment. That's a low interest rate market value adjustment. We've now traded it for an annuity with a market value adjustment that has a high interest rate market value adjustment. So we paid a little bit of negative here to get out of it, okay? But we made money mainly because of the bonus. That's why we have these bonus annuities. So some people will say, well, what if you didn't have the bonus? Wouldn't these rates, the caps, the participation rates be higher? The answer to that is yes. If you can get an annuity with no bonus, the rates are higher. But there's two schools of thought on that. One is some advisors will say, let's don't do the bonus because it's a long-term thing. We want to get the opportunity to get those higher rates. I'm more a guarantee guy. I'm going to take the cash in hand. I'm going to take the 13%. And if that fixed rate or those caps are 1% or 2% higher without the bonus, I'm going to get the cash up front. I like cash up front. I don't like taking unnecessary risks. I don't like doing that with my money, and I definitely don't like doing it with yours. That's the school of thought. I'd rather get that money up front because the likelihood of you making 13% in just by having an extra percent on a fixed rate or a cap rate, it does not make up, except in the very long term, for you giving up that interest rate, that bonus in the first place, because it's compound, right? You making 3.5% not only on the principal that you put in, but also on the bonus that they paid you day one. Okay, so I want to get the bonus. But it also, the other reason we need the bonus is to overcome the surrender charge. Remember, if we put this in a non-bonus annuity, we're going to be negative 6.9%. We don't want that. Okay, if I can't find something that's going to bring you net positive after we pay the surrender charges, we're not going to do it. We're just not. I'm not going to put you in a worse or negative position. Everybody good with that? So what's the catch? This all sounds pretty good. It is very good. There is a catch. Number one is you're getting rid of an old contract that you've been into for a few years, and that surrender charge period is shorter because you've been through it, for a new contract with a new surrender charge period. So you're going to start that 10-year clock over again, or that 5-year clock over again. But that's probably okay. And the reason it's okay is because in most cases, this is long-term money anyway. And if you feel like you're going to need more than 10% of that batch of money out every year, then we're probably not going to do this. We're probably going to say, we have an opportunity, but it looks like you're going to need to take 20% out of this thing starting in 3 years. So we don't want to start that 10-year clock over again where you're going to get penalized on those withdrawals. But most people, in 15 years, I've had 3 people pay surrender charges just because, and that was because they just needed money to do things that they just wanted to do something different. Two of those 3 were trying to pay off solar panels on their roof before interest charges kicked in on that. So we just did the math. Say, okay, we got a 6% surrender charge on this annuity, but you've got 25% coming up on this financed solar panels on your roof. I mean, let's go ahead and do that. I mean, that math works out. The other one just changed your mind, and in year 2 or 3, and just decided to pay the charges and go do something else. Nobody else takes out more than 10% a year. Even if you're taking out required minimum distributions from an IRA, those start out your first year at about 3.5% or so, and go up, slightly every year from there. But they're always well under the 10% penalty-free amount. So it's long-term money anyway. Restarting the surrender charge period is usually not a factor. It's not really a catch, but it's something I always like to disclose to you is I'm going to get paid again. Now, that's not what I base this decision on, obviously, but you do need to know that I get paid. You don't pay me, the insurance company does. And I get paid one time upfront, usually somewhere between 6 and 7%. And that's my fee for taking care of you for the rest of your life, hopefully, the rest of that relationship anyway. Again, that sounds like a lot of money, and it certainly can be. So if we've got a $100,000 annuity, well, I'm getting $7,000 from the insurance company right up front, and that's my compensation to take care of you. You're not paying it; the insurance company pays it. But imagine if you had that $100,000 in a managed money account, and let's say I'm managing it. Your all-in fees are about 1.4 to 1.5%. 1% of that comes to me. That's my compensation. You do pay that. That does come out of your account, and it comes out every single year as long as you're my customer. And over the years is going to add up to way more than what that annuity company is paying me behind the scenes. Doesn't come out of your account. So somebody's paying it. I'm in this business to make a living, and this works out better. A lot of agents, for some reason, are scared or ashamed to talk about how much they get paid. I'm not. It's just not a secret, and I think it's okay for you to know. But I said I get paid again. So if you bought an annuity from me in the past, you're already my customer. I got paid at that time to sell you that annuity. And if we exchange it, if it works out, the math works out in your favor, it's a good idea. It puts you in a better position. It makes you more money. We're going to exchange it, and I'm going to get paid again. Okay. So recap. What is it? It's a fixed index annuity. How does it work? It provides the upside of the market without the downside risk. Why do you need it? It provides safety, simplicity, and fee efficiency, among other things. Okay, I told you I would give you the best deals out there currently on annuities. As of this morning, July 11th, 2024, on the fixed rate annuities, the multi-year guarantee annuities, the best 3-year rate that I have with a good A-rated company is 5.9% guaranteed yield to surrender. So this one works a little bit differently. It doesn't pay the same rate every year. It pays a bonus rate the first year. So the first year it's like 6.92, and then the second and third year it's 5.92. But when you net out, you average out those 3 years, 5.90 guaranteed yield to surrender. 5-year, same thing, 5.8% guaranteed yield to surrender. We've been in a little bit of an odd situation the last 2, maybe 3 years where short-term interest rates are inverted. That means the 2-year treasury is actually paying more than the 10-year treasury. And so our short-term rates are actually higher than our long-term rates, which is weird. It doesn't sound right, but it's true. And so anytime we can get a short-term rate that's more than a longer-term rate, we're taking a short-term rate. That just, I would rather do that and have the flexibility than get locked into something. We might be locked into it and miss out on another opportunity. So those are the fixed rates. When we're talking about fixed index annuities, a 5-year one, the best one I've got currently as of this morning with a good A-rated company has no bonus. So you put in $100,000, you start up with $100,000. It's got an 11.5% cap on the S&P 500 index strategy, and it's got a 5% first year fixed rate. Okay. So this is probably not something we're going to trade an old annuity for, but if you've got new money you want to put into a new annuity, this might be a good option. Now, again, the 5-year annuities, all that means is that for the first 5, the surrender charge just lasts 5 years, but we're going to get, over the long term, we're going to get better rates and a better return on our investment for a longer period, a longer duration annuity. But that some people just don't like the idea of having a 10-year surrender charge period. So go with a 5-year. You just have to understand that you're not going to get that upfront bonus. But for a 10-year one, this is kind of our sweet spot. This one right here, this one is paying 13%. This is the one I just illustrated to you in that example. 13% cash bonus up front is currently 7.5% cap rate on the S&P 500 annual strategy and a 3.5% fixed rate. Now these rates, they go up and down. They don't fluctuate like the interest markets, but they are subject to change up until the day you sign the application. You're locked in to that rate. So if the rate goes up before the annuity is issued, they'll give you the higher rate. But if the rate goes down before the annuity is issued, before we get it all finished up, you're going to get the rate that it was when you signed the application. And then every year on your anniversary date, they're subject to change. So that's when we get to meet and play Let's Make a Deal again. This is kind of our sweet spot. This is the one that I like for new people starting new annuities and for people who have an older annuity and they want to trade it in for a newer, better, faster, higher paying model. Got another one here that I use for a very specific purpose. It's got long-term care and death benefit enhancements. That means that if you need help with 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, dressing, feeding, toileting, bathing, transferring, this annuity has a feature built into it that applies a factor to your money and gives you more money than what your cash value is to help pay for that long-term care. And that same factor applies to the death benefit. So it's got death benefit enhancement. It has a 20% cash bonus currently, 20% cash bonus. It does have a fee. And remember, I've said a couple of times, I don't like paying fees in annuities unless they pay for certain things. So if you're interested in long-term care or you're interested in leveraging and enhancing your estate transfer to your beneficiaries, you want to get them more money, then we need to look at this one and say, okay, let's look at the numbers. Are the numbers that they're showing us in the illustration, do we think that justifies the fee? And if we can say yes to that, then this is the right one for us. And if we don't really think we can justify the fee, then we're not going to go with this one, because the fee is going to eat up that bonus, in a few years. And so the bigger bonus is kind of designed to front end load the fee. So it's kind of offsetting the fee, but the bonus is one time, the fee is forever. So we have to really take that into account and really just make sure that it's what you want. It's paying for something that you feel you're going to use. All right. Those are the best deals currently as of today. Here's that other bonus. I said the best short-term interest rate that you can get that your current advisor is not going to tell you about. I tell almost everybody about it because I just think it's great. It's the I-Series savings bond from the U.S. Treasury. It has gone down a bit over the last year. It's currently, as of today, as of May 1st, it changed every 6 months, 4.28%. I've been telling certain clients in certain situations, let's just go get some of this. I don't get paid for it. Your current advisor also doesn't get paid for it. And that's why they don't tell you about it. They want to keep your money in their fee-based accounts where they get paid to call you once a year. This is a great place to put money for 12 months. May not be quite as high as some of the bank CDs you're seeing, but it's a good place to hang out. There's a couple of catches to this. It's a 30-year bond, but you can cash it out without penalty after 12 months. And the interest rate is subject to change every 6 months. So in October, at the end of October, that rate's going to change again. It has been kind of steadily going down for the last about 2 years. I did this presentation back in February, and it was 5.29%. So between between February and April, or May 1st, it dropped by a percentage point. But I do help clients set up their account with the treasury.gov, deposit that money, and then we watch it. We can take it out without penalty in 12 months and go do something else with it. The other catch is it's limited. It's limited to $10,000 per person per year. So somebody I've always felt was pretty wise with money told me a long time ago. He said, look at the types of accounts that the government limits. Those are the ones you want. Roth IRA, 401k, Roth 401k, I-Series savings bonds. If the government puts a limit on the amount of money that you can put in it, that means it's bad for them and good for you, right? So it's limited $10,000 per person per year. So we can't put a lot of money in it. It's not like your advisor is going to be losing a lot of his income producing assets, her income producing assets, but some of them are greedy. I'm not. So here's my offer. I'm going to put a little link here up on the screen. Where'd it go? Here's the offer. Okay. Should all be able to see this now. All the numbers that I've given you today are all based in fact, but they're just examples. They're not real for you unless they're your numbers. So come see me, come meet with me. Let me run these numbers for you and see if this makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to put anybody into a situation where you're going to be displeased with me. I'm not going to do that intentionally anyway. And so the numbers will speak for themselves. We'll be able to see, does this make sense or does it not? It's math. Math doesn't lie. We're going to put it on paper in black and white in front of you. The math doesn't lie. You just pick whatever makes the most sense to you. Okay? Meet with me. Let me run these numbers for you. I'm going to give you 2 gifts. I'm going to give you a copy of one of these 2 Patrick Kelly books. Stress-Free Retirement is probably my favorite. It's the book that it's the only book that I've found. It is very, very easy to read and understand what fixed indexed annuities do and how they work for you. It's about that thick. I'm not a fast reader because I like to comprehend. So I go back and reread stuff a lot. And it took me about 2 hours on an airplane to get through that book. If you're a faster reader and you can, get the information and hang on to it, you can probably read it in about 45 minutes. But very, very easy read, good, easy layman's terms, so you can understand what fixed index annuities do for you with some storytelling. So it kind of tells a story about how these work for certain people. And the other one is a smaller book called The 5 Retirement Myths. It's just got 5 things that people say about retirement that turn out to just not be true. Things you've been told all your life about retirement that just don't pan out. So that's the first gift. Come bring me your statements. Let me run these numbers for you. I'm going to give you a copy of one of these books. And then because I didn't have to spend $15,000, invite 100 people down to Fleming Steakhouse and feed them and get 6 or 7 people to meet with me, because I didn't have to do that, you come meet with me, let me run these numbers for you. I'm going to buy you a $100 gift card to the restaurant of your choice, assuming I can get a gift card from them, and you go have that steak dinner on me at your leisure. So that's it. That's my offer. Here's some disclosures that I have to put up there for you. I'm not going to read them. I'll leave them up there for a minute, and you can read them. If you want a copy of that, I'll get it to you. But that's it. That's all I have, folks. Man, you guys have all hung in there with me for the whole time. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. That makes me feel really good. Sometimes I'll be doing a webinar like this, and I have 25 or 30 people sign on, and by the time we get 5 minutes through it, I've got 4 people left. But all but one hung in here till the very end, and the one that left just left a couple of minutes ago. So thank you so much for being here. Just what I love doing. I love talking about these things. As you can see, we're an hour and 40 minutes into this thing, and I haven't even taken a drink. I've got a cup of hot tea and a cup of iced tea here, and I haven't even taken a sip of those yet. I just love doing it. I love working for you and figuring out these problems and solving these problems and putting these puzzle pieces together for you. And that's what we do. I've assembled this team of people, interdisciplinary team, to help you enjoy your best years in retirement and be your one-stop retirement shop and your HR reps for the rest of your life. So send me an email if you have any questions. Give me a call. You can click on that button right there to schedule an appointment. Just for it really takes 30 minutes. If we're both pretty chatty, it might take an hour just to run the numbers and see if it works out, see if it makes sense. It might not make sense. I can tell you a lot of people it does. So hope to hear from you soon. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay cool, stay inside. It's hot, and hope to see you soon. Bye, folks.